Hi, my name is Robert Barrett, and I'm an artist, and today I'm going to be talking and demonstrating about gesture drawing or exaggerated drawings. This is an approach that I use for everything that I draw and paint. I try to see the big shapes, the big forms first. I put in big marks, and then I start developing out of those big shapes individual small shapes. One thing, if you want to draw with a pencil like this, you should hold it toward the end, and you should draw more with your elbow and your shoulder even as you make circles. Because you use this so much for writing, to actually hold it a different way, you'll make a much more interesting mark. Sometimes I tell students it's really a great idea if they practice making marks to kind of figure out what it is that their tool will do. So again, in gesture drawing, which is expressive, I find this is more expressive than something that just has a small tip to it. When I have students paint, and I'll have them get certain brushes, I'll say, why don't you understand what this filbert brush will do by practicing making marks with it, or this bright brush will do by making marks with it, or a round brush, for example. So they're all designed in certain ways so that the paint comes off the end of them in a characteristic way. So one thing that we do when we draw a human figure is we exaggerate a little bit, but we try to think of it as a dimensional thing that has points of support, points of tension, any number of things. I'm going to start to see her face as, or her head as an oval. This is kind of an approach that I would use for a really quick gesture drawing, or something that lasted closer to 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour. But it's all kind of started the same way. What I'm doing here has to relate to each other. So how do I know that that's going to relate to each other? One thing I did is I looked at an angle of this coming up, this blouse coming up to her chin here, the other side coming up down from her chin about there. How far out is it? It suggests from her head to here. So I'm looking at just a couple of really quick angles that are going to help me, guide me as I do this figure. So that's just kind of a gesture drawing of getting her on this page. So that's a very, very quick drawing, just indicating. So I think all drawing is a combination of what you know and what you see, but sometimes you have to go through a little bit of retraining about how to see. Or in some cases that means how to see less than you normally would see. Look for the big shapes, the big forms. You might think you know what an eye is all about, but if you dissect an eye, or you understand how big the orbit is where the eye sits, it can be a big help in making the eye believable. Sometimes when you're doing a gesture drawing or a quick lay-in, it's helpful to think about exaggerating things a little bit. So if you see an edge that you think, gosh, that seems like a hard edge, it might be better to make it a little harder than the way you see it. Or something you think is a soft edge, make that a little bit softer. I find often that exaggeration comes closer to reality than an understatement.